Ready for it.
Thrilled for it.
Presenting Franks with Turbo Booster Jet Engine.
Nexa.
Right then, Eliminator territory. Mumbai Indians, Gujarat Titans, they like to make the finals. They've never done it through the path of the Eliminator. They'll still have Punjab Kings waiting for them if they are to meet RCB on Tuesday. For now, it's about getting the job done in New Chandigarh, where the ball might move a bit, at least if the evidence of yesterday is anything to go by. Next up presents ESPN Begin for Timeout. Let's go again on the red couch. Varun Aaron, Tom Moody, and Dustin Silgardo. You still haven't told me your middle name, Dustin. You will not as well. All right, GTMI. I want to start this at the top as well. The big story is the absence of big key overseas players. All that being considered, who's starting this game as favourites?
I would say MI.
Really?
Yeah, they're starting this game as favourites, but you can't leave out some of the big players in GT who haven't put in big performances yet, namely Rashid Khan. And also, if the wicket's going to play anything like it did yesterday, I would say GT are in a better position to combat those conditions.
I want to go to straight something big
batting-wise.
I'm going to go for something very big to start with. MI won the toss. They're batting first. After what we saw yesterday, I'm thinking, ooh, that's brave. Is it?
No, I don't think it's brave. I think they would have taken very much notice of what happened yesterday. But the way I looked at it, I thought the ball did more in the second innings than it did in the first innings. And that's maybe what their data is telling them as well, that, look, let's forget about how Punjab played, their top order play, but we're going to play this a lot better and be very mindful of the surface and respect it to a certain point and then take the game on from there. So, again, I always feel in big games like this, you put runs on the board, even if it's a 140. It's going to be tough when you've got the likes of Bumrah, Bolt to combat.
Hardik had actually lost 5 tosses in a row. And never in this year's IPL have MI won the toss and batted first. You did bring up the numbers last evening that it indeed, as Tom said, did more in the second
innings. Also, remember, Gujarat are coming in off 2 games where they conceded a lot of runs in the first innings. They bowled first in their last 2 games, conceded a lot of runs. Maybe MI also think Gujarat's bowling is a question mark. Let's expose that early. Could that be part of the thinking?
If anything, they would want to do that batting second. But I would say Gujarat, especially with the way they are playing at the moment, again, like Tom said, if you put runs on the board in a big game like this, it's always pressure situations chasing it.
I think the other thing to take note is that Mumbai are probably thinking, I'm backing our bowling attack here to put the pressure on and make it very difficult in the quest to chase down whatever total we put. And if the ball does swing, like we saw it last night, you know, Trent Bolt's going to be in absolute dreamland.
They did make a real fight of 155 when GT played them at the Wankhede. And that was a slightly different surface, no doubt, but it was hard work, even for a GT with Josh Butler in it. Dustin?
Yeah, and I think they had 1-4 batting first, 1-4 batting second. So for Mumbai, they've been even either way. Obviously, most of the times they batted first, they lost the toss, but they would think, I guess, that, okay, we've won defending as well as chasing, so maybe just look at the conditions and they're not, you know, they don't feel like there's only one way they can win.
I think it's more to do with the conditions. Exactly the Hawkeye numbers you brought out last evening, more movement in the second innings, could also do with the overhead conditions as well. So you never know. I think they've just gone with what they've seen better than anybody else.
Throwing out just what Hados has seen of the new Chandigarh surface, different pitch than yesterday, says that it looks drier. And it definitely does not have the same amount of grass cover that we saw last night.
So the mower's been out and the roller's been out because they're wanting, obviously, a few more runs up there. That doesn't guarantee we're not going to see the ball swing or seam because it may look dry on the surface, but quite often there's still moisture underneath, which, you know, a bowling attack will enjoy.
I can also tell you it rained early in the morning in Chandigarh today.
Interesting.
It's clear now, but there around 4 a.m., 5 a.m. there were videos out of some unusual weather. So overnight, I'm sure there would have been the covers on at the new stadium there. Okay, we'll come to what would be very interesting team news in just a moment. We saw Kusal Mendes being presented a cap before the toss. I'm sure he's going to play. We'll come to all that in a second. But let's set this up as a massive game for 2 captains. you actually have quite a nice little mix over here. You have India's last test captain and their next test captain. You have GT's title winning captain, now the MI captain, Hardik Pandya and Shubman Gill. In this brief period, there already has been, because of a lot of other factors, I'm guessing, a GT-MI rivalry.
Absolutely, I think this has been brewing this Western derby.
I like it. I never thought of Western derby. Very good.
Yeah. So I mean, this is one of those games where both teams want bragging rights. Especially Hardik Pandya has been a part of GT and now gone to MI. A lot of fans were unhappy. The GT fans, that how can Hardik leave us? That was a question. Again, the one thing common between both captains, they didn't have a good season last year, team-wise. MI, obviously, we saw what happened. GT as well, one of those off years. Shubman Gill missed out a lot of key players in the form of Hardik, and Shami was injured as well. This year, great comeback by both teams. Now it's all about the business end and who's going to win this game and maybe win the next one.
Yeah, who do you sense has more motivation for this? With Hardik and what happened last year at MI, Shubman knows now that he's perhaps, that he's got a big 12 months ahead of him, anointed as one of the younger test captains in almost a generation. But who has more at stake tonight?
I don't think you can say one's got more against the other. I think they both will be desperate to get their bragging rights. Regardless of what's happened prior to this, we know that GT have sort of dominated this contest, but today is a different one. This is the one that's going to be remembered to who wins and who loses. So I think both have got a huge motivation. We know the following that Mumbai have got. It's a huge following. So the pressure's probably more on Hardik after the transition from going from GT to Mumbai and what happened last season. And we were shocked here listening to his home crowd boo him and all those things that unfolded. He's found his way through that and fought his way through that. He wants to sort of, if anything, sort of settle that for good and have that sort of, as you say, bragging rights.
The other thing with Shubman, knowing Shubman, he would look at this as stamping his authority as a captain because now he's the Indian Test captain. He would want to say, you know what, this is how I work as a captain. I make teams win and I can win the championship. So there's pressure on Hardik. There's also, I wouldn't say pressure, but Shubman just might have that little fire in his belly to prove himself as, you know what, I'm a championship winning captain.
Yeah. I mean, frankly, there are some teams, if they make the playoffs, you think, okay, that's a good season.
Yeah.
But Mumbai Indians, it's never that. I mean, this is a side that's won 5 titles. So just making the playoffs would not be considered.
But even GT would be the
success.
No, but I get Dustin's
GT,
point. They've not been in a final for 5 years, let alone win it.
Yeah, and for Mumbai,
MI.
I mean, you were asking who's favourites. Any side that has Bumrah, Sky and Hardik, that's the first 3 names on the Indian team sheet, right? I mean, any side with those 3 players should really be favourites. But again, for GT, the fact is that they've already lost 1 final. So for them, losing, I mean, just making the playoffs already, even though they're such a new franchise, may not feel like enough.
They've won a final, been runners-up in 3 years.
Correct, and playoff again now.
Yeah,
so with what you're saying, I think this is more on MI. MI, for them, knocked out in the Eliminator, may not necessarily be good season.
No, it won't be a good season. It won't be a good season at all, particularly when you look at their squad. But we've also got to remember GT are the ones that had it all in their hands a week ago. And they've watched the last 7 to 10 days, it just dissolve. And suddenly they're thinking, how have we found ourselves here?
That is an excellent point. We've forgotten all the...
It's like, so they've got to overcome that disappointment and that sort of, how have we blown this? We shouldn't be in this position, type of, mental talk. So they need to push that aside. And this is a contest that what's happened in the past doesn't count. What happens today matters.
That is such an important one. We focus so much on Punjab and RCB and MI's missed opportunity that the team that were best placed, they had Lucknow and Chennai.
Yeah.
And even 1 win would have been sufficient for them to be playing yesterday.
Unbelievable.
And living like Punjab with an extra life. Suddenly they're in knockout territory.
Yeah.
I think their problem has been that 4th seamer, according to me, in their bowling attack. They've gone for 200 plus scores in the last 2 matches. And if you see the combined economy of that 4th seamer, they've played 3 or 4 different guys in that role, is close to 11. Today, I hope they play Washington Sundar. That gives them more options with the bat. And also, he's more experienced, like Tom was saying yesterday. He's played all formats for India and has done well also. So he just comes with that little extra pedigree.
You think that the fourth seamer is more of a problem, not the exposed underbelly beyond the top three, which now becomes the top two in the absence of Butler?
I think that can, by playing Washington Sundar, I think that solves both those problems.
Yeah.
I think he gives them a little bit of a cushion in that position at 4 and 5, but also gives them a little bit more depth with the bowling option.
I'm very excited for teams. Let's look at teams, please. Please, teams. Bring in teams. Mumbai Indians. Johnny Bairstow, welcome back to the IPL. Sunrisers champion when he used to bat as well as he did with David Warner, and he wouldn't mind a partner like Rohit Sharma as Ryan Rickleton departs for WTC duties. He takes Corbin Bosch with him. Raj Angad Baba, who has featured in the past to try and balance this team out when there have been the odd injuries, is playing. No Deepak Chahar, he was under an injury cloud in the last game itself against Punjab at Jaipur. Richard Gleeson, the other temporary replacement, is also in. No Charith Asalanka, no room for the Sri Lankan captain, and it looks like in the absence of Will Jacks, everybody will just slot in a position higher. But let's try and make sense of this. Why have they gone Gleeson and Raj Bawa in that team? Jump in, boys.
They've seen last match and they've gone, you know what, we need an extra seaming option. Also, I think Tilak Varma batting in number 3 is a blessing in disguise because that's where he's got so much runs for India in T20s, and I think that's his spot. He's not a number 5, he's a number 3.
There's no Deepak Chahar on the bench, looks like.
He's injured.
He's injured,
Oh, yeah,
he's injured, yeah.
Right.
You're not listening to me, Dustin.
My apologies. So they bring Ashwani in the second innings. Yeah.
That is the batting first. Yeah, just look at that one more time and just see what their options are, because Bumrah is also named in a batting first 11, so clearly outbats anyone else, and maybe they can play. There's no Karan Sharma either.
Oh, yeah.
So they're if it said drier surface and all that, but it looks like they pretty much decided. They could bring in Raghu Sharma, who was Vignesh Puthur's replacement, so they have a young leggy instead of Karan. I also heard something about Karan also nursing his own little injury troubles with the hand.
I think there's another giveaway from that team sheet that Hardik Pandya might not be bowling too many overs. And him in the middle, say if Gill gets on a roll, could be key, but I think he might just be nursing a niggle, you never know.
I think Raj Bawa is a very interesting selection in an eliminator.
Yeah.
I wonder what's happening over there. Could you go an extra batter? We thought maybe we'll bring a Robin Minge back if you want to get in Will Jacks as extra batting. You've not gone Charith Asalanka because you have a different overseas combination.
Is Boa better suited down the order though? That's probably why they've gone with him, knowing that they want to play Tilak at 3, which I agree with. I think that's a great move. So he's had an indifferent season.
Yes.
It's an opportunity for him to, step up into the spotlight where he's been sitting back at number 5, sort of waiting for his chance. He got retired out on one occasion. So this is a case of, right, big game. We know you've got this in you. You've done it for India a few times. He's got 200s at 3 for India in T20 cricket. So
And then another one in Mushtaq Ali. So he scored 300s on the trot.
Yeah, it's just the
why
choice.
isn't he batting 3 then?
I think in many
where has he
ways,
been?
Matt Roller made that point that Will Jacks actually, even though he's been very serviceable with his off spin and the odd cameo, he's not quite what this team needed. That they would be better off with Tim David like they had last year, someone who can bat 6-7 and send all the Indian openers batting a position high. I think you've brought up Namandir is a terrific player who's batted 3-4 at times, who's just having to be put into number 6-7.
Yeah, I mean, they did do that early in the season. They tried Namandir at 3. They tried Tilak also.
That was in the absence of somebody. I think Namandir.
But then once they decided to go with Jacks, he's been at 3. But now this has, I guess, opened up that spot. And you're right, maybe Bawa. We haven't seen a lot of him in the IPL, but I guess he's somebody who they feel can bat in the lower order or the middle order.
It was the hardest place to bat though.
Yeah.
So you're asking someone to come in a massive game to play a role, which is one of the hardest roles to play.
Yeah, he of course is a seam bowling all-rounder. So they're giving them that extra cushion. Gleeson's first game, no Chahar, all that. But yeah, big day. Raj Bawa played in the game at Lucknow where he didn't bat or bowl. That's been his only contribution. Good fielder, very good fielder. So we'll see how that goes today. Right, that's MI's team for you, and they are batting first. Remember, after Hardik's won the toss. What about his former franchise? Let's have a look at GT. Kusal Mendes, we assume, will slot in just for Joss Butler. Washington Sundar plays. The rest of the team is unchanged. No Shafane Rutherford. This is the bowling first 11. 3 overseas, we almost assume Rutherford will come in. And no Arshad Khan as well. Right, Varun Aaron. Like it? Washi?
I think this is their best team. Obviously, Josh Butler, big miss, but hopefully Kusal Mendes looks at this as a great opportunity and comes in all guns blazing. I think this team looks brilliant. With Kodzie there, Rashid Khan hopefully comes into form. We all know his record in the playoffs is really good. A lot of big playoff names there. Shubman Gill, Sai Sudarshan, great record in the playoffs. Rashid Khan again. And even Mohammad Siraj has a very good record in the playoffs.
All right. Something tells me you're backing the Titans.
Yeah, you're beating them up, aren't you?
You never saw any of those playoff performers of the MI team.
Excited.
Yeah, because some of their names actually don't do well in the playoffs.
Like whom, Varun?
I mean, it's there to see.
Oh, gosh. All right. Let's talk a little more right now, right? Dustin, you've dug up something for us for today. MI, of course, our favourites. Where do we start? Shall we start Surya Kumar Yadav?
Yeah, I mean, Sky, everybody knows the story. He's just been terrific this season. He scored about 40%, I think, of MI's runs in the middle overs. So it's like he's doing such a chunk of the scoring in the middle overs. It's more than anybody else by, quite some margin. And it's just been an outstanding season. Obviously, all those runs have come at a strike rate of 170 plus. I know his last couple of innings, people have said, he struck at 150. But then... when somebody's striking at 170 and then in a game they strike at 150, you know that it's probably the conditions of the bowling. It's
who are these people who were telling you he struck at 150?
It's Cristiano Ronaldo, 7 is one name who likes to say, this guy is striking less than 170. What do you have to say about it? But when a guy is striking at that through the season, you know that, if he does at all have a slower innings, it's probably because he needed to do that in those conditions.
41% of contribution by Surya to this MI team. One thing, no doubt Surya has been phenomenal. We're not worried about anyone who says otherwise. Just tell you that the rest of it hasn't quite come together as well as MI would like in terms of batting.
For sure, especially the top order. The top order hasn't really come together. Rohit Sharma has been blow hot, blow cold throughout the season. Especially, he didn't start off well. Then the moment he picked up MI's fortunes,
they started winning.
Started turning as well. So we just know, I think it's out there to see. The top order fortunes are equivalent or directly proportionate to how the team does. Punjab, again, big case for that last game.
The 41% was in the middle overs, so there is context to it. Rohit and Rickleton give them starts, but it's not like he's had a lot of support. I can't remember too many games, barring some cameos by Namandir, where the batter with Surya has also been taking down teams.
Yeah, well, I think it has got to do with the top order to a certain extent, because what we've seen, Rickleton's had a decent season, but you could argue he's had a number of great starts and hasn't really converted any of those great starts into something significant to dovetail with Sky to make the, to sort of reach that maximum team score. As you said, Rohit's had, an indifferent season. But you're a brave person writing him off, particularly around finals where, he's just as likely to go out there and bomb a quick 80 off 40 balls. He just the way he rolls. But, Sky, what will be very interesting if Sky goes early and how Mumbai respond to that. And we talk about GT having their woes in the middle order and potentially being exposed. I see that with Mumbai if Sky gets out. And he is human, and he does score at 150 strike rate from time to time, which is still brilliant for most people. But if that happens, that will be really interesting to see how that team responds. Instead of Namandir having to put the icing on the cake right at the end, he suddenly then has to bat 8 overs or 10 overs, or Hardik is suddenly going to have to play a different role against coming in, searching for boundaries from the ball one, having to build an innings and see the team into some sort of safe waters.
Also with Mumbai bowling, if they manage to see off when Mumbai bowls, if they manage to see off Bumrah and Bolt, who's going to be those bowlers who are going to get wickets? We know their spinners have been good throughout the season, but again, we just got to see Raj Baba coming in new. There's a debutant again in the form of Gleeson. How they go in a big game like this.
That's why I think that's why they've picked Gleeson.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite a good selection, because looking at those conditions last night, even if the pitch report's sort of saying it's slightly different than last night,
can't be too different.
He's going to be quite well suited because he's quite a tall guy, tall release, and he hits the seam and does it at decent pace. So he will ask the right questions. He won't be quite as consistent as a Hazelwood on that perfect length, but he'll hit that length.
Yeah. Matt
sure.
Roller has joined the party, by the way. Just sent me this on Gluchat Gleason. Has not played any cricket since the SA20, but did very well over there. 14 wickets for Sunrisers Eastern Cape, who of course were runners-up in the competition too. MI Cape Town, of course. Thank you for that, Matt. Now that's a nice point to set things up. MI have some questions about bowlers beyond Bumrah, and GT have questions beyond their top two tonight. So let's set this up over there. Could we possibly see this game almost decided in the power play on how Gill and Sai Sudarshan go? And you brought up Gill and Sai Sudarshan's record in the playoffs, something that we have seen. I'm sure Hardik, Maila Jayawardena, the analysts have all sat down here and thought, right, what's our use of Bumrah when you know Shubman's in this form, Sai's in this form. These are the two players leading the orange cap race. And in playoffs, that's not a bad record to have at all. Varun's already smiling.
No, I mean, that 100 of Gill is versus MI, by the way.
Yes.
So, and also he's faced both bowlers in playoff scenarios. When I talk about both bowlers who could get him out, Trent Bolt and Bumrah, he's got 100 versus Bumrah. And if we all remember, that 50 came off Rajasthan Royals when Bolt was a big part of theirs. And he won the final with that 50. So they've got good memories, you know, playing against these bowlers.
Not just them, you as well.
Yeah.
Is Bumrah taking the new ball?
I hope he does. Class battle. Bumrah versus both.
How about Deepak Chahar's absence also being a blessing in disguise today? Where you know you have to manage Deepak's overs, but today he's not there. So Bolt, Bumrah, bang, bang.
I'd like to think that's the go. I don't think it's a blessing that Deepak Chahar's injured, because I think those conditions, I think he may have been a real threat.
But a fit Deepak Chahar.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. But yeah, look, I think the game can be won here if we know what Bolt's records are like in the power play, and if it's swinging, he's a major threat, because he swings it in the second half of its journey. He doesn't swing it from the arm.
Yeah.
Like a lot of swing bowlers are a lot easy to face because they swing it really from the wrist. And you see it sort of curving one way or the other, where Bolt's in that elite category because he gets it to dip late in that second half of its journey, and it makes it very, very difficult.
And he bowled an elite spell to Sai Sudarshan at the Wankhede. Sai Sudarshan, prime form of his life, carting everybody to all parts, and he bowls the most beautiful over to him, gets him edged eventually.
Match up on screen for you.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Twice in 4 innings, striking at just over 100.
Correct.
31 runs, 30 balls.
So you throw Bumrah at the other end, you've got 4 overs potentially of seriously intense, batting battle. And it's not going to be easy. Forget about how many runs we're going to get in the first 4 overs. It's a case of how are we going to survive the first 4 overs.
I think a lot also depends on just what the target is. Good GT are a side that are set up to kind of chase 185, 190, maybe up to 200, because their template is usually go at about 9 and over in the power play, get risk-free runs in the power play, and then build on that. They haven't chased the bigger totals this season. And I think in terms of the bowling choices, again, it's going to be what is the target, right? If you're defending 160, you probably have to throw Bumrah in there for 2 overs. If it's a slightly bigger score, then you might think, okay, 1 over of Gleason and then maybe 1 over of Bumrah in the 4th. So a lot will depend on what the target is.
Okay, you go.
The thing with Bumrah is, am I always in this muddle to bowl Bumrah in the power play or to keep him towards the end, And again, something Tom said yesterday about being smart against a bowler who you don't have a good record against. I think they should be smart against Bumrah, because the moment they don't give Bumrah a wicket in the power play, MI will immediately think, oh my God, we need Bumrah towards the middle and the back end and not bowl Bumrah again. Then they can go after somebody like a Gleason who's not played in a pressure situation like this, in a game like this.
Yeah.
Okay. You have some more on Trent Bolt though, don't you? Beyond
his death bowling, which we won't see till the end of the game today, but his death bowling has been a big story this season in terms of how he's improved. He's always, of course, been a fantastic power play bowler. He's actually landed the second most Yorkers this season after Avesh Khan, and I actually looked at his Yorker percentage. It's actually 50%. So 19 Yorkers he's landed. I think there are about 10 full tosses and 9 full balls. So he's landing almost 1 in every 2 Yorkers that he bowls, and he's got 4 wickets. Of course, once he lands the Yorker, it's a very low economy rate. Even his full tosses haven't actually gone for that many runs. I think out of 10 full tosses, only 2 have gone for boundaries, and similarly with the full ball. So that means even when he's missing, he's probably not missing by that much. He's not giving you, those knee-height full tosses. So yeah, his death bowling has been a big story, I think, for MI this season, which is again where I guess the question is of where you bowl these guys, although it could give them the option of bowling Bumrah earlier because they know that Bolt is another guy now who can deliver in the death. They're not just reliant on Bumrah in the death.
Well, I know, having spoken to Trent Bolt about, his bowling deployment, he gets very frustrated when he's not considered as a good death option. So it's interesting to see those numbers in his favour, that he's starting to hit those areas, because I know it's an area that he prides himself on, and he doesn't want to be just recognised as an impact bowler, with a new ball. He wants to be relied upon in the middle and the end, so a three-phase bowler.
Right, we're fast approaching first ball there. I believe there's some interesting news coming from Shashank Kishore, who's at the ground, that he's seeing some rain in the background. I hope it doesn't happen. But MIGT was more drama because of the rain when they played at the Wankhede. In the event of no result, the higher ranked team goes through. But we'll only get to that stage much later. We have a long time before we can get to that territory. I guess the fundamental question today, with the uniqueness of this year's IPL playoff situation, is how much can you really expect from these replacements? You're going to have Bairstow start, Gleeson, Kusal Mendes. How much can you really expect from these players?
Well, I'll talk about Bairstow. If you look at Bairstow's career, he has always been someone that's responded well when he's been up against it. It's nearly like he's had a career for England that he's always on the cusp of getting dropped, or he's always the one that's the scapegoat, and he's always had to respond. So to me, it's inbuilt in him to be able to do it, because he's always done it pretty successfully to be able to. And I see this as an opportunity more than anything for Bairstow. He won't be thinking, oh, this is a pressure situation. Unlike Mendes, this is a different situation for him. Bairstow will be thinking, I've walked this path plenty of times. I can't wait for this opportunity, because that's what he's had to face for his career.
Would it have hurt his pride that he wasn't picked up at the auction? Would he look at this as...
Yeah, he'd be frustrated for sure, without a doubt. And he'll see this as an opportunity to remind people of his value. And we all know that he's a valuable player. He's not quite in your Butler category, but he's not
right
far away. He's had a very good IPL record.
525 runs in 6 championship matches for Yorkshire as captain. Also hasn't played since the SA20. Once again, Matt Roller watching the show. You, I think, said that of all the temporary replacements, when we're looking at, but who's out there, who can they get, who's available, and suddenly Bairstow comes in. That perhaps must be the most elite or premium signing.
100%. So much pedigree there, just like what Tom's been saying. And who knows better than Tom, because he got all those runs, most of those runs for SRH at a serious lick. So Bairstow coming in today, great news. GT are going to have to be on the money. I think Siraj, like I said yesterday, holds the key to the battle today, because Bairstow can get LBW bowled early on. So Siraj is on the money. He could be that one bowler, but if he's not on the money, I don't know how GT are going to navigate the bowling power play.
Rohit and him probably deal more in boundaries.
Yeah.
He will be.
And singles, of course, maybe less, not as many twos. Anyway, power play time. Next up presents Power Play Conversations. All right, this is big. Rohit Sharma, we haven't mentioned him enough, but after what was a pretty impressive middle phase where he hit 350s, which is not something he's known to do, is he, Dustin, in IPL? He normally doesn't get 3-450s. He's had, once again, that middling 300 to 400 season.
Yeah, but it's an improvement on where he started off. I mean, when he started off, it looked like he was just not only not getting runs, but slightly out of form. And then he played, I think, 2 or 3 innings where you could at least see the touch is there. Of course, the last couple of his innings, he got out early. But, I mean, the good thing with Rohit is, at least he's always going to go for his shots early. So he's not one of those players who will get stuck in the power play and get you, a 12 or 15. He rarely does that. And, I mean, the question is just, does he get you a quick 50 or does he get out early? That's usually been sort of the pattern with him.
It's very interesting to see those playoff numbers.
Yes.
He's nowhere there. Which I would have thought was the other way around with Rohit Sharma, because he always seems to me as someone that's a big game player.
Yeah.
Average of 15 in the playoffs, that's pretty low.
Yeah. You had built it up earlier without mentioning a name. It's
I was waiting for him to come out to bat. Who would you go? Johnny Bairstow is looking strong.
Who would you go second over, Varun, given that Arshad isn't playing and he's usually been their second over bowler?
Yep.
They're 2 righties, so I guess that means Washington isn't really in play. Do you go Prasidh straight away or Kotse? Or
They could surprise them by going Saiki, because he's really good with the new ball. Rohit is a good LBW candidate. That's possible, but they just might go Coetzee.
All right. Right, we're getting to that territory. Kusal Mendes has his gloves on. Shubman Gill, his captain, is in first slip. Rohit Sharma is out there. So is Johnny Best. The Eliminator is upon us. Thankfully, there's no sign of rain just now. And it'll stay that way is what we hope. Fingers crossed. We hope to be back in 20 overs time, gentlemen, unlike yesterday. So assuming we get 20 overs, unless your predictions tell me otherwise, how are we seeing this innings going? Dustin, kick us off.
176.
Okay, MI 176 for Dustin. Varun Aaron. You want to wait to see your ball, don't you?
180.
180 for Varun. Mr. Moody.
166.
Ooh, okay. Are you low balling it or are you saying that's a competitive score in a playoff?
I don't know.
All right.
Well, I'm taking a little bit of intel of what happened last night, and I'm sort of assuming that we're going to have a little bit of movement early on.
Yeah. It's amazing. We've gone through a whole 30 minutes of an eliminator for a team that features Rashid Khan and barely given him a mention. It's just been that kind of season.
Until this point.
Until this point.
You know, he may well do the Stark of last season.
Yeah.
And just come alight in the finals.
That's the thing with big players. They are big players because they stand up at the right times. And
let's see if he stands up tonight.
And he does have a good record against Mumbai. Even in the last 2 seasons where he's not done so well against other teams, against Mumbai, he has a pretty good record.
I'm glad
and in playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm glad we brought that up now.
Yeah.
Now we have gotten a word in and some points in on Rashid Khan, right? We got 166 to 180 for the three of you. I've got to be something outrageous. Now, should I go low or should I go high? High scoring thriller tonight. So I'm going to go 200. Let's get a nice clean 200 tonight. And I can tell you that because I'm not doing so well with my predictions, it's almost time you find someone better. Next up presents ESPN Cricket for Crickcaster is kicked off. And we have seen Fab 4 that have been in our studios. This is Dhruv Shukla from Mumbai. He had the chance to get into the Cricket 4 studios. He came ready from his room, which was nice to see, and got the chance to interact with the great Anil Kumble. So that was an experience you'll remember for a long time. We will, of course, be unveiling the result for Crickcaster powered by Nexa very shortly. And that chat is something you can catch on ESPN Cricket 4. All right, we'll see you in 20 overs time or sooner, depending on how the MI innings goes. On Nexa presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout.
Ready for it.
Thrilled for it.
Presenting France.